So my first question was like, because I asked about, after the success of Dardak all those years ago, it's obviously very important after that to make the kind of right choices, to continue on and pick great characters and great stories. So what was it about Mili and this character and this story that made you think, right, this is one for me?
Well, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that firstly, my father felt so strongly about the contents of the story, because I think at the heart of it, it really is a story about a father and a daughter. And also the opportunity that it presented, in which I could push myself as an actor. I mean, it's a survival thriller, and that as a genre, I think, is a very tough, emotionally and physically draining genre for any actor. And I personally love survival thrillers. I've been a fan of, I don't know if you've seen Trapped. It's a film that an actor called Rajkumar Rao did in Hindi, which was great. And then 127 Hours with James Franco, I thought was unbelievable. And even the film that Blake Lively did, I forget what it's called, where she's stuck on a rock and there's like a shark. It's a great
That was
film.
really
What is
good.
it called?
Yeah.
Um,
Gosh.
anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I've always been a fan of survival thrillers, and I've always been fascinated by how high the stakes are in every moment and in every scene for the actors. So I was just excited to get to try my hand at performing those kind of scenes.
I know this might sound like a stupid question, but was it cold? Did they create a cold room for you to help you kind of get
They
into
did.
character?
They built a cool storage room for me that was at -15 to -18 degrees at all times. And I was in there with my regular clothes, and yeah, and we, a lot of us felt sick because we were in that tiny room for 15 hours a day, and yeah, it was quite exhausting.
Yeah. By the way, the Blake Lively film was called The Shallows. I just
The
remembered.
Shallow,
There we
yes.
go. Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned it is exhausting. I mean, it feels like one of those roles that required so much of you physically and emotionally. And even though I'm sure you absolutely loved making this film, it must have been quite exhausting. Was there almost a sense of relief when it finally came to an end?
Oh my God, yes. I want to say no. I want to say no. I miss being on set and I missed all of that. But honestly, I just like the minute we packed up and we said, I remember announcing that it's a wrap on the freezer. I have just burst into tears because it was so traumatic, and I was so happy that I didn't have to wake up and spend my entire day in that tiny little compartment that started smelling like raw chicken by the end of it, because we had like packets of raw chicken in the freezer. And it was just, yeah, it was and the thing is that originally we were supposed to be in there for 9 days, but because we kept falling sick and the camera kept glitching because it was so cold and so confined that the camera would fog up, so there were a lot of obstacles in the filming of this segment, and when we finally finished it, I think I was like in shock, in disbelief, and I needed like a week to recover from it. I think I went on like I don't know what I did the next week. I think I ran away from home. I have no memory.
But I never mind the kind of recovery. I'm interested as well about the preparation. Like, well, how do you prepare for a role like this? What sort of preparation can that include?
Also, my director actually insisted on me not having to prepare at all, because my character wasn't prepared to be
That's
caught in
true.
a situation like this. So he was like, the less prepared you are, the better it is. And he was, anyways, creating an environment that would help me perform in the most optimum way possible. And so for me, I think part of the preparation was to just not be prepared and to not anticipate what that would be like, and just wake up every day and show up on set, and he would throw these challenges at me. So we'd run really long takes, and he'd say, okay, today's activity in the freezer, today your way to survive is that you're going to build an igloo, or you're going to try to light a fire. And he would say, uh, these are your tools, and these are the places that the camera is going to be. Now figure it out. And then we'd run like 15-minute long takes, and I tried to go through the motions of it. So it really did feel like I was living the film and in a survival thriller, trying to survive myself, grappling onto
As,
any threads of sanity that were left. I really think I left my brain in the freezer. I've never been the same since.
the beauty of acting, but I just because but before she gets trapped, Millie has such a lovely demeanor. I mean, it's a very positive outlook on life. I think I often ask actors when they play villains, how much fun is it to be nasty, to be evil? But conversely, is it fun and nice sometimes just to play good people?
It is nice. And the thing is that a lot of the stuff um, that the freezer was actually one of the first things that we shot of the film. So after getting done with all of that trauma and pain, it was so nice to go back to just the pleasantness of Millie and her life. And and then everything was just like it was almost like the lightness of being. And even with those segments, my director, he was kind of like, I don't want you prepared, I just want you to bring your inherent energy to the screen, which is the first time a director said that to me, because usually it's all about becoming another character. But here was someone who was trying to let me be me as much as possible.
Oh, so when I say the character is really nice, that obviously means that's come from you, which is but I mean, how was it working with, I mean, you mentioned obviously this is a project very important to your father. How was it working with him as a producer? Was it quite interesting to see him at work, kind of in his element?
You know, the funny thing is, he's actually visited me on the sets of my other films more than he's visited me on the sets of his own film. And I think that was a conscious decision on his part. But I think the involvement that we've had with each other has been more during the post production of the film, because the shooting of it and the execution of it was more my interaction was more with the director. And I think my dad's the kind of producer that kind of leaves all the creative calls to the director, and he's just kind of there as a pillar of strength. So right now, interacting with him and seeing how much he does for a film that he believes in is really heartening. And I'd like to think that it's because he believes in the film and not just because his daughter's in it.
Yeah. But I mean, just as a side note, it's just great to spend time together, because so often our lives and our jobs and our commitments means we don't get to see our family enough. So if you get to work with family, it must be a nice way to just spend time together, I guess.
But it's also that, I mean, like, he isn't my co-star, he's my producer. So
Mm.
like last night I came home and I was like, okay, Papa, I can't sit with you. I need to go sleep. I have an early morning tomorrow. And he's like, you never spend time with me anymore. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm busy promoting your film. Like, you've scheduled these interviews. I want to stay and I want to chill with you, but like, what do I do? And he's like, no, no, go to sleep.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask too. I mean, do you have any kind of ambitions to maybe one day produce or follow in his footsteps, to do stuff behind the lens at any stage in your career?
I don't think I'll ever produce, because I think that I like having hair on my head. And I think that if you ever take up production, you will definitely, like, the stress and the pressure is too much. And being an actor is hard enough. I don't think I could deal with that. But I think direction is something that I would definitely um, want to think about.
Yeah. I mean, you have some really exciting projects coming up. This must feel like a really exciting time in your career. But do you ever take a moment to kind of stop and take it all in? Because sometimes these things happen so fast, and sometimes we don't really stop and appreciate them as they're going on. Have you been able to take a moment and sort of go, this is quite an exciting time?
I haven't actually. I think the anxiety of Millie releasing in theaters is so intense that I think I'm just gonna have to take that minute to digest everything after the film releases, and on the basis of the reception of it a little bit. So yeah.
And there's one in particular that is catching attention in terms of upcoming projects, which is quite exciting, which is Bawal. I think I've said that right. Apologies if I haven't. But how was that? How was that experience in working alongside the great Varun Dhawan?
Oh, it was great. I don't know if you've ever interacted with him, but he's such a bundle of energy in life, and it was insanely fun. I had a great time, and I think it's such a special story, and I resonate so deeply with what it's trying to say. So I'm very excited for people to see it.
And my final question, really, because last night I went out with some friends. I went to see some music, and I was in the pub afterwards. And they asked me what I was doing today, and I told them I was interviewing you. And it kind of kick-started this whole conversation about Bollywood movies and films they'd seen this year, and interviews they've kind of watched online. And I feel like this is a conversation that might not have even happened 3 or 4 years ago, but maybe thanks to the likes of Netflix or Disney Plus and other streaming sites, it feels like movies from India are becoming so much more accessible to all audiences in kind of every household. I just wondered if it feels like quite an exciting time. And in India, is there a kind of awareness of how projects are reaching maybe more people than they ever have before?
I think so, and I think that the boom in OTT platforms and digital content and uh, uh, the ferociousness with which it's being consumed, especially because of the lockdown, has really enabled the concept of world cinema to become an actuality, and it's enabled us to reach a wider audience. And I mean, this year we have, I think, a film that's been submitted into the Oscars, a film that is a regional film that wasn't even a mainstream Hindi film, and all of a sudden I like that borders are being blurred, and there's so many of our artists that are dabbling into to films, to Western films, to regional films, and all sorts of things. So I think that it's a great time for artists in general and movies in general, because I don't think, I mean, as colloquial as art is, as artists are, as important it is for them to represent their societies and localities and their truths and their cultures, I think that the coming together of it is very beautiful. And I like the concept of being an artist of the world, or a film that's accessible to the world. I like the idea of being a global artist, if that makes sense. And I think that this is now the time for that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great answer. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck with the rest of your new projects coming up. Hopefully, they'll be a little bit warmer, and you won't be stuck inside
Thank you.
the next one. Cheers. Anyway, have a nice rest of the day. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,